Nightly Scroll live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday to Friday. I just saw someone in the chat say, James Comey in handcuffs now, which brings me to what we have on deck coming to you right now, actually, on the show. Former FBI Director James Comey could be indicted as soon as today. I don't know if it'll happen today now because it's later in the day, but we're going to stay on top of it. Also, new details out about the deadly Dallas ICE facility shooting that signal a political motive. Are we shocked, ladies and gentlemen? I'm not. Scott Bryson joins me for tactical detail. We're going to get into what we learned today from the FBI. Also, that Free Palestine shooter in New Hampshire last weekend, the shooting at a Texas baseball field this weekend, and much more. So put your phones on Do Not Disturb. Nightly Scroll starts now. So we're officially on James Comey indictment watch. According to multiple sources, the DOJ is weighing whether or not to pursue Comey charges. This is ahead of a September 30th deadline. So coming soon, coming to you soon, right? So Attorney General Pam Bondi had dinner with the President of the United States last night. Also, President Trump has been putting pressure on her to make arrests, as he did last Saturday in this Truth Social post. That we could pull this up here. He was kind of urging her to do something about James Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia. President Trump said they're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. Then he went on in this same post to talk about Lindsay Halligan being a really good lawyer. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation. So he's mentioning Lindsay Halligan as his pick for prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia. So if Attorney General Bondi gives the green light, Lindsay Halligan would be the one prepared to present the case to a grand jury in Virginia. And Halligan has been spotted, apparently, according to sources. She's been at the DOJ twice this week. So this is where the conversations are happening. They're allegedly happening. Maybe some people are saying that they're not so sure about these charges, but it could happen as soon as today. If not today, it could be soon. Of course, like I said, we're looking at a September 30th deadline. So TBD. President Trump was also asked about this, and I didn't pull the clip, but it was just he kind of gave like a non-answer. Like, I don't know, it might happen soon. And then someone asked if he would get involved, and he said he might get involved, but I haven't thought about it. Those like Trump answers where he gives you nothing. So TBD on how, we know how President Trump feels about all of this. He wants justice to be served for sure. But a guest on MSNBC suggests there could be this mass exodus of people who apparently check their politics at the door when they go to work for the FBI, but this would be a bridge too far if Comey is indicted for them, and they may all quit if this happens. So listen to this.
When you become an assistant United States attorney or a political appointee in an office, you check your politics at the door. You walk in and you do your job looking at the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's what I believe Andrews and my former colleagues across the country are trying their hardest to do right now. There may be a moment for difficult choices coming for many prosecutors. And I hope that when those moments come, that the American public will stand up and support these people. I think if there is a move to indict Jim Comey, we will likely see resignations out of Alexandria and Richmond. We may see other forms of protest by career prosecutors. It's a unique moment, and I think that these people will rise to it.
Joyce Vance, Andrew.
Unique moment, and she thinks these people at the FBI who apparently are checking their politics at the door, they're going to rise to the occasion to quit if James Comey is indicted. If that's the case, then they're really not putting their politics aside to do their jobs. And I would say, good. I think we can lose these people at the FBI or at the DOJ if they are so tied to James Comey and they are so, enthralled with him and they don't want anything bad to happen to him, despite maybe evidence saying that he lied under oath. I think that they could probably go work at a think tank or something or some other job in DC, and I think they'd be just fine and we'd be better off. So again, this would have to go to a grand jury. Lindsay Halligan would obviously have to present the evidence of Comey lying under oath. and he would have to be found guilty of that in Virginia. So TBD, a big TBD on that. I want to take a quick break to tell you about Genucel. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard me tell you about the transformative results that people see after using Genucel, myself included. I use the dark spot corrector, the firming serums, the creams. I genuinely love the way they feel on my skin. They're not too heavy. I wear them underneath my makeup. They give me a great glow. And I know the products are working for my skin underneath all of this. So you can get your hands on my favorite products during Genucel's end of season summer sale. There's only a few days left to get Genucel's complete skincare package at 70% off. It includes the legendary vitamin C deep firming serum, where you can see immediate effects and results in just minutes. Get the best skincare in the world for yourself, completely risk-free. Go to Genucel.com/scroll today and start looking years, even decades younger tomorrow. All orders are upgraded to free shipping. See results on day one, and you will get compliments everywhere you go, guaranteed, or your money back. That is Genucel.com/scroll, Genucel.com/scroll. All right. New details today from FBI Director Kash Patel on that Dallas ICE facility shooting that happened yesterday morning. So let's take a look at what he posted on X earlier this morning. He said this, that the FBI headquarters and also with FBI Dallas, they've been working 24/7 to seize devices, exploit data, process writings obtained on location. They're trying to figure out all this information on the shooter. And here is the new information that we learned today. This is the important stuff. So the perp downloaded a document titled Dallas County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, which contained a list of DHS facilities. So clearly he was looking this up, maybe choosing a facility to target. He also conducted multiple searches of ballistics and the Charlie Kirk shot video between 9/23 and 9/24. So in the day before he carried out this attack, he was searching Charlie Kirk getting shot and watching that video. Also, the month prior, August 19th to August 24th, he searched apps that tracked the presence of ICE agents. So I didn't even know that these kinds of apps existed where you could track the presence of ICE agents. Is this like, you know how the app Waze, like it'll tell you if there's a cop on the side of the street? Is that what this is? I've no idea. I've never heard of anything like that in my life. This has got to be, I don't know. It's news to me. So maybe it's news to everyone else as well. But that I found interesting. This is another tidbit from the FBI director. One of the handwritten notes recovered read, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror to think, is there a sniper with AP rounds on that roof?" Then the last thing here said, "Further accumulated evidence to this point indicates a high degree of pre-attack planning," and that they will update with more information when they can. Lots of interesting information there that I am going to get with Scott Bryson in just a few moments. But I want to first go to MSNBC's reaction to all of this information that was put out by the FBI earlier this morning. Listen to this.
Yeah, what more are we learning, Mark, from the FBI director?
The director put out a lot. This has been a nonstop investigation. Basically, Kash Patel is saying the suspect downloaded a document titled, quote, Dallas County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management that contained a list of DHS facilities. The suspect also conducted multiple searches, according to Patel, of ballistics and, quote, Charlie Kirk shot video between September 23rd, September 24th. Back in August, the suspect searched apps that tracked the presence of ICE agents, and one of the handwritten notes recovered in the investigation said, quote, hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror to think, is there a sniper with AP rounds on that roof? Patel also said they have evidence to this point that indicates a high degree of pre-attack planning. They believe the suspect spent much time trying to figure this out. And they're still, we talked to officials this morning, the investigation on it continues at this point.
And there's new information about the shooting itself, right?
Absolutely. ICE officials said that when the barrage of bullets opened up in that Sally Port, that ICE officials, ICE officers. They were able to grab detainees. There were 8 to 10 inside the van. They were able to pull some to safety. Obviously, 3 people were shot. 1 passed away. But that is some of the new information we're learning today. So again, this investigation is really evolving today.
Yeah, it's interesting. They also went on to say in that clip, the woman that was wearing the pink outfit, she was saying that, we're still learning more details about the shooter and what his affiliation is. She went into the fact, obviously noting that he didn't have a direct political affiliation, and she almost seemed kind of relieved by that. But also obviously made note to say that, we had heard from his brother, and his brother said that he didn't show any hatred toward ICE, making it seem like this was just crazy. And, he had no idea, no way of knowing. I don't know how this person could be indifferent on ICE based on what we've seen with the photo that FBI Director Patel put out yesterday, the anti-ICE messaging on the bullet casings. It seems odd to me, but here to break down these new details, among other things, is Scott Bryson for Tactical Detail. Hey, Scott, thank you so much for being here. Unfortunately, we keep bringing you back each week, and there's a new shooting to talk about. And today we're going to be breaking down 3. That's obviously not all of the ones, but just 3 ones that hit headlines this week. It's horrible that we have to talk about all of these, but with this Dallas ICE shooting, it's interesting. He had these apps to track ICE agents. He was looking into different ICE facilities. How is it that these folks on MSNBC can not know the motive or pretend like he was just indifferent about ICE? I can't
That's
hear.
with reality. They have no desire to tell the truth. Chris Plant says it best: if it wasn't for double standards, there'd be no standards at all. It's a clown show over there. Most of the mainstream news media are basically apparatchiks for the Democrat Party. And it's sad. They can't tell the truth. They want a narrative. They want this one narrative to be so true, so badly. And when it's not, they don't know what to do. So they get on TV and then they just talk in circles.
Yeah, and another just horrifying detail that we learned today is that he was researching and watching that video of Charlie Kirk being shot over and over again just the day prior to him carrying out this attack. So people are now suspecting that this was a kind of a Charlie Kirk assassination copycat, if you will. This is why I don't repeat the names of violent murderers on this show. I think it just gives them the clout that they want so badly. But with a high-profile assassination like that, it's hard not to cover the assassin. Many people in the media, they cover his name because it's an important part of the story. But they're in it for the glory. And now that kid who shot Charlie Kirk is now famous, unfortunately. So do you think that, there's a copycat aspect to all of this?
Absolutely. It's a very real thing. And I'm glad that you said that, because you took the words right out of my mouth. These people, they're subhuman, first of all. They're barely human, yeah. But they love death more than we love life. So that's a problem. We think in terms of ISIS and Al Qaeda and those guys being hard to deal with, but they've almost infiltrated Western society with the leftist movement, right? Because liberals aren't really the problem. It's really the left. And there is a distinction. I used to make fun of people for being liberals, but liberals, they're kind of soft and beta, right? But the left is hardcore and they're problematic. And these guys get on the internet, like we saw in this case, and they search and they try to get 15 minutes of fame. That's why I do the same thing you do. On my podcast, I refer to the situation and I call them the killer or the murderer or the assassin, but I refuse to use their names. I'm not giving these clowns 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about the building itself. This occurred in the Sally Port. This is a detention facility. You would think it's secure, but this guy shot from a building nearby. Clearly, he had been planning this for a while. And when you have a building like this, where it's a detention facility or a jail or something like that, I mean, there's a routine, right? So if he was planning this for weeks, I mean, he could have figured out when they were moving people in and out and kind of like the pathway of some of these agents, if that's who he was going for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to be very cognizant of falling into a routine, even as law enforcement officers, right? I've been doing this job for 30 years. We talk about how can we make the public safe, and we have to alter our routes. We're not paranoid and trying to make people on high alert all the time, but we have to alter our routes and pay attention. Well, guess what? Cops have to do the same things too. And most of the jails and detention centers that I've been to, the Sally Port is an enclosure with doors that shut and lock behind you. And most of them are ballistic, not all, but they're made out of steel or some heavy material. I think it must have been like an open air, some type of Sally Port. I'm not, if he had a line of sight, it obviously wasn't inside. And that gets to the point of concealment versus cover. So they may have had some concealment, but the guy still had a line of sight, so there was no cover. So driving into like to a structure, to like a concrete structure or a steel structure, I mean, you have to think outside the box. If your facility doesn't have those means, then maybe you should invest in some Jersey barriers or some buses. Secret Service a lot of times uses school buses for line of sight, or trailways buses. You use, or heavy snow equipment, right? You use what you have available, and you have to think outside the box. It's unfortunate that we've come to this as far as law enforcement having to be concerned with the run-of-the-mill everyday process, but now they're going to have to think outside of the box.
Yeah, and this, we're still learning details about this, but it's not like, I think law enforcement, especially when you're talking to like Secret Service and they're protecting the president, I mean, they're obviously prepared for all kinds of threats, but now it's like random crazed teenagers, like homegrown terrorists, which is a totally different beast.
Yeah, it's almost like it's reverse engineered itself. So with the Secret Service back in the day, you had to worry about the lone gunman, right?
Right.
Squeaky Fromm. Your audience is probably too young to know who she is, but look her up. 1975, she took 2 pop shots at Gerald Ford with 21 days apart. And then you had, Hinckley with Reagan and all these different things, and all the assassins through the years with, Abraham Lincoln and all these different guys. So we went from the lone assassin to organized attacks in the Secret Service protection world, right? But now over in the law enforcement sector, it's like it's reversed itself. It used to be, we have to worry about gangs and MS-13, and we do. We have to worry about all these things. We have to worry about the actual terrorists, but it's like it's coming at us from every side, and it's very unfortunate for these guys. My heart goes out to all of them.
Yeah, it's very scary. And, I'm seeing these patterns now. It started with Butler. Not that shooting people from a roof is anything new, but in recent history, right, we saw Butler just last summer, where the attempted assassin was on the roof shooting at then candidate President Trump, from 150, feet away. And then we kind of saw a very similar situation at Charlie Kirk's event at UVU. And then this is also kind of similar, where he was on top of a roof shooting at another building. So, and this guy, looking up Charlie Kirk's murder just days before, I think that he was probably inspired by Kirk's killer, and maybe he was planning his attack to look similar. Maybe he was planning it before Charlie Kirk's assassination as well, because according to FBI Director Patel's tweet that he put out earlier, he was researching things back in August. So maybe this had to do with more of an inspiration from Butler. But what can people do? What can building owners do to secure their properties, right? Because this was a property adjacent to the ICE facility that he was shooting off of. So what do building owners need to do to secure their properties and to secure the roofs on their buildings?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a tough one too because the landowner, the landlord or whomever has the right to do business in a fair market, right? And they need to do really thorough background checks, which some people do, and I'm guessing some people probably don't do. So you need to vet your tenants very thoroughly if you're a landlord renting, right? But some of these people own their property too. So as long as you have the money and you go to the bank, you're gonna get the house or the condo or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately the law enforcement entities, like for example in this case with the ICE field office, you're going to probably have to push your perimeter out, and you're only going to be able to go so far because the sidewalk and the city owns the streets and all these different things. But you're going to start having to really think about your perimeter expanding a little bit, and you're only going to go as far as your real estate allows you to go. Therefore, you're going to have to start getting creative with jersey barriers and blocking devices. And then, nothing beats going inside. We talked about that, last week with Charlie, unfortunately. I would say pull inside. And the thing for your audience to know too, these field offices, that's where people work. When I was a Secret Service agent, I wasn't just a protection agent. I spent 9 years doing protection, which is a lot actually. But, so that left me 16 years as an investigator. Well, you go to a field office and you do your work there. And so in addition to the gun carriers, you have your administrative people there, right? So a large population of women who don't carry a gun and aren't law enforcement, but they're just as subject to these attacks as the next guy. Right. We can go all the way back to Oklahoma City. That was I started saying embassy. That wasn't an embassy, but that was a federal building that they blew up. So I mean, we just have to really start thinking in terms of a bigger footprint, which is not necessarily going to be easy, but it's something that we're going to have to consider.
Yeah, and I think just familiarizing yourself with an evacuation plan, whatever building you are in, if you live in an apartment, look up, the nearest stairwell in your office building. If you own your house, of course, you know where all the exits are and things like that. But I think we really do need to all just come up with an exit plan, a strategy in case of an emergency, and just try to be as prepared as possible. I want to move now to this shooting that happened. This was over the weekend. It was on Saturday, and I meant to cover it this week, but then I thought, Scott's coming on. We're gonna discuss this, and maybe some more details will be coming out. Last Saturday there was a shooting in Nashua, New Hampshire, and it was at a country club, and it was in a restaurant kind of next to where a wedding was going on, and a country club member was shot by a man who used to work there. But before opening fire, he reportedly yelled, "The children are safe and free Palestine." So, this is interesting because I feel like a lot of these shootings, it's a young guy and they are showing or exhibiting signs of some kind of mental illness. Sometimes we have confirmation of that. Sometimes we don't. But it seems like it's a lot of young males. And I think workplace killings are also something that we have to be aware of because there are disgruntled employees. And at the same time, we don't know if that's exactly what this was, but this guy used to work at this country club. So that's maybe a potential thing here. But authorities say this wasn't a hate crime and they're still working on a motive. So what's your take on this situation?
It's another tragedy that's just absolutely ridiculous that we have to even consider this, but we're way past that, right? So the gloves are off. And now what we have to do as individuals in society is we have to be prepared for ourselves. Not that 911's not good, right? Always call 911 and get the cavalry coming, but it's going to take them a couple of minutes to get there. So what's going to happen in a couple of minutes, right? 120 seconds is a long time. Yeah. So you're going to need to be prepared. This was a shooting, but it could have been a heart attack. So, find out from the general manager, hey, is there an AED here? And then maybe know how to operate the AED. Right. Make sure you know how to do CPR if someone's having a heart attack. All those little things. So not everything that we discuss is always about tactics as far as like a go bag and extra magazines and knives, which is important. But have a medical bag in your car. You're probably not going to take a trauma bag into the wedding venue, but at least have one in your car because you can't assume that the country club or the restaurant's going to have one, right? So I would recommend a first aid kit. It's going to sound a little over the top, but a tourniquet, right? A trauma bag to to stuff wounds with. Those are the things you would have in your car, kind of like a go bag, right? A medical go bag.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you do. And again, prior to ever going, though, you're going to have a good time. Someone's getting married. You're doing a reception or whatever. Everybody's having fun, and you should be able to have fun. But you also have to play the what if game. Okay, what if something happens? You need to know where the exits are. And one of the best ways to escape a place like that is through the kitchen, because the kitchen is a very busy place, but there's a back door where they take the trash and get the deliveries and things like that. So make sure, like I would say, oh, there's the kitchen. If something happens, I'm gonna hit feet through the kitchen. And you need to make sure you know where hallways go, because you don't want to pin yourself into a dead end. If you go to the bathroom and then you're trapped in there, you're going to get killed hiding in the toilet. That's just horrible. I mean, it's sad that we have to think about these things, but I call it war gaming. I know you know that. I say that all the time. But coaches have football coaches have a game plan. They don't just show up and hope for the best. They think about things, and that's what we have to do.
Yeah, but I think that's a really good point, what you said, right? Because I think in the moment, people panic and they don't really know what to do, right? So maybe they do think that running into the bathroom and, locking the door behind them is the best course of action. And, if it's a stall type bathroom, then you're a sitting duck and you're stuck, right? You can't go anywhere. But maybe in the moment, people are panicking and they think that that's the right thing to do. That's why I think having these conversations is so important, because anyone watching this show is going to hopefully, not hopefully, I hope that nothing of this happens to anyone who watches the show, but with everything that's happening, you just have to be prepared. And hopefully that if something like this happens, that like switch will go on and you'll think, I remember this segment and I remember Scott saying, don't go there, go there, so I think that that's very important. And, going into a kitchen where there's a back door, surely, like, these things make sense. But I think when the average person walks into a wedding or a restaurant for dinner, they're not thinking about these things. But now when I go into these places, I'm absolutely going to be thinking these things. So I think it's important. So I thank you for that. But, the authorities say, well, it's not a hate crime. They're still working on a motive. I feel like a lot of people who aren't in law enforcement, they see authorities come out and say something like this, and they think, well, what the hell? The guy yelled "Free Palestine." What do you mean there isn't a motive, right? So what does that look like for law enforcement when there's a killer that screams something, in this case, obviously Free Palestine, but maybe it's something else? Do you take that and run with it, or do you have to kind of verify that in some way?
Oh, yeah. You definitely absolutely have to verify it, but it's something that the investigators should come back to and harp on until they feel like they've gotten the right answer. Now, a lot of times these guys, they lie to you right off the bat, and they make some hardened criminal, they lie the whole time. But generally speaking, there are things that you can entice them with, like, okay, just tell me the truth and we can maybe work out a plea bargain or something like that. Of course, the police don't make those decisions. The DA's office does. But, if you cooperate with me, then I can, cooperate with you and speak on your behalf to the DA, because the initial charge is just that. We got to get the guy in handcuffs, because these are the things that kill people, right? The face kind of gives it away. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Your facial expressions sort of give it away, and of course your words. But the hands are what kill you. So we got to get the guy locked up, and then the uniformed guys are going to do their thing, and then they're going to turn him over in something serious like this. The detectives are going to come. Then you got crime scene that's got to come out there. So it's going to be a very slow process. It'll be very methodical. It will be thorough. And then on something like this, on a homicide case, I believe they charged him with second-degree murder. So the DA's office they're going to be heavily involved, and they're going to actually tell the investigators what to charge.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Okay. I want to move now to the shooting that happened over the weekend in Texas. So people were kind of starting to talk about this yesterday, but it happened on Sunday. There was a shooting at a baseball field in Katy, Texas, and a baseball coach was shot in the shoulder. So the baseball facility where this took place is called The Rack, and they put out a statement that said this: people shoot on their land all the time. At the time, we were unaware of anything in season. Now that we have more information, we know that there were 3 individuals target practicing 600 to 700 yards away. And that's the end of the statement there. But the individuals turned out to be 23, 21, and 27-year-old men. And, I don't usually say their names. But in this case, I can't even pronounce them. So you know what? I'm not even going to try. But all three of these suspects they're being held now on a $100,000 bond. And the Houston Warriors founder, he spoke to local police, local news, and said that the coach was shot during pregame prayer with his team. So that's like another layer to this. And, he was wounded, but he wanted to make sure that all the kids were safe, and thankfully they were. But target practice, I mean, people practicing and they just so happen to shoot at Christians who are praying. Something to me seems fishy here.
Yeah, I'm generally a glass half empty kind of guy. So that sort of smells like a rat to me. The problem is it's just an opinion at this point. So we're hoping that the investigation plays out. And honestly, I really hope it is something very innocent, but I got a feeling it's not. I mean, these are military age males with a specific ethnicity. Okay. Right. It is what it is. And that's a hard thing to say out loud, but that's what I love about Silver Lock. We can get on here and speak freely and not be worried about being taken down off of YouTube or something. So it is what it is. And, like to your point, not to say that ethnic group of people can't be Christians. I'm not saying that, but by and large, they're Muslims. Let's just say what it is. Right. Okay. And then you got Christians praying and they get shot. I mean, I don't know. I think it's worth investigating. I have my own opinions, and I think you can probably, pick up what I'm laying down. But here's the other thing too: words matter. And so when the guy says target practicing, the general layperson is going to think, oh, a target or a steel, like a steel target. Human beings can be targets. I mean, so maybe he was in a weird passive way telling the truth. I mean, he wasn't going to admit to a crime. But yeah, he was target practicing. Listen, I'm not saying that's what happened. I mean, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw that today.
Yeah, that's the first thing that I thought of too. I was thinking, target practicing. Maybe they were practicing for some other kind of attack, maybe a larger attack. But when this happens, because we've been talking in the past few weeks about outdoor facilities and what happens in an emergency in an outdoor open air facility. Where is the best place to find cover at a baseball stadium when shots ring out? I mean, obviously, if you're in the stands, I would think it is like get under the chair. But then again, then you've made the decision to hide and not run. So what would you recommend?
Yeah. So good question. So first of all, when you're hearing shots ring out, it's over. Like we're running right now. We don't know where it's coming from. We're little kids. We don't have guns. We can't fight back. So we're running right now. The aluminum bleachers, that's not going to do anything. Little chairs that you're sitting in, mom's over there in the chair watching, that's not going to do anything. You need to find some brick. Most of these facilities have bathrooms that are made out of cinder block or brick. Right. I would get behind that bad boy. A lot of times these places have huge boulders for landscaping and also to keep cars from driving on the grass and stuff. Get behind a big boulder. That could work. Concrete's amazing. The brick would work. People don't think about this, and it doesn't always work, especially if the ground's super flat. But like in some baseball fields, think about the landscaping. They have mounds. Like maybe they have some rose bushes up on a mound of dirt, or there's some elevated part. You can get behind the earth. There is nothing better to stop a bullet than the ground. Now, you don't want to just lay out there in left field. That's not going to do any good. But you need to have like a knoll or something. So I would run as fast as I could to like a brick, like a facade made out of brick or something like that. Of course, cars. The parking lot's full of cars. But if you're going to hide behind a car, you need to get behind the engine block, because I got bad news for you. Even a 9mm round, which this was not, this was rifle rounds, right? It sounds to me like will go through a car. It'll go through sheet metal with no problem, and plastic and all the things. So if you're going to hide behind a car, you need to get behind a wheel, like not the wheel well, but the actual wheel, or the engine block. Because otherwise, if you just go hide behind the trunk, that thing will go right through that.
Right. Oh, it's very scary. And, with political violence on the rise, I worry about Americans who have been radicalized, of course. But I also worry about people who are here on American soil, but they hate us and they hate what we stand for. And maybe they have exploited the open borders where they, the door was open, so they walked right in, and now they're here, right? And it's been a long time since we've had a foreign terror attack on American soil. How many terrorists do you think are in the country right now? And how likely do you think another 9/11 style attack, how likely do you think that is?
I am scared to even guess. I would say thousands, probably tens of thousands. It would be my guess. I don't know if you're familiar with, or if your audience is familiar with, a young lady named Sarah Adams. I would highly recommend that you find her and look. She is brilliant, and she has been screaming at the top of her lungs to anybody that will listen to her. And the only person so far that's listened to her is Sean Ryan.
Yep.
She can't get anybody in D.C. to listen to her. This woman is smart. She was a CIA targeter. She knows what she's talking about, and she has been warning us. There's another guy named Scott Mann, I believe his name is. He was a former Green Beret. He's also in her camp. I don't know that it will be something like an airplane again. I think, unfortunately, it's going to be like 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 dudes with automatic weapons showing up at the mall, showing up at the ball field, showing up at the movie theater, and just small arms fire. That's, we saw at the beginning of the year down in New Orleans with the guy with the car. You don't need a gun, by the way. These left-wing lunatics are always, wanting to take guns away. Well, okay, you take the guns away like you have in England, they'll just stab you to death, or they'll get a hatchet and cut you up with a hatchet, or they'll run over you with a car.
Right.
This is a heart issue. I know you know that. This is a heart issue. This is not a gun control problem. But to your point, the last administration let so many bad people in. It's absolutely, it's scary. That's why I never, ever, ever leave home without my pistol. I just don't do it. I mean, the only time I don't have my gun on my person is when I'm in my house. And that's a sad way to live, but that's the world we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people kind of make fun of mostly people on the right for being conspiracy theorists, doomsday preppers. But when you talk about the likelihood of some kind of a terror attack happening, whatever that might look like, right? Maybe it's a bomb, maybe it's something else. What are some things that people should have in their cars? I know you talked about like emergency kit, tourniquet, things like that, but what about also in your house? Or, there are certain companies that sell kind of like these, I hate to call it doomsday, but like these emergency preparedness packages where they have food, water, things like that you can keep for like a year at a time. I mean, do you recommend people have these things, or like what are the things that people should have in their house at all times?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm not necessarily a prepper. I could probably do a better job on that, but we do have things around here like we store water. You're going to need water. You can go a while without food. We don't like to go without food, but you can go a few days. You can go a week or two without food. You're going to lose some pounds, but you can go without food, but you can't go more than 3 days without water. So you have to have fresh water. That's the number one thing.
Yeah.
There's multiple companies that you were just referring to that sell these pre-packaged like MRE type things almost, and they're actually supposedly taste pretty good. But yeah, we could get back to the old way of life, canning, and not everybody's going to have an opportunity to be a homesteader, but you could get chickens and have eggs and all the things and plant your own garden. So there's all types of things that you can do. As far as other things that you should have in your car, I would say a blanket. Especially in the wintertime, you break down on the side of the road and you're stuck overnight. You need a blanket because you could actually freeze to death. Have water in your car. Yeah. Always have an extra flashlight. People don't think about these things until it's too late. Have a flashlight beside of your bed. Have a flashlight in your glove box, because like say at home when the power goes out, you're gonna be scurrying around trying to find a candle and light a candle and all that good stuff, which is fine. But what if the power goes out for a prolonged period of time and you don't have that stuff? So I would also keep extra extra gasoline or kerosene on hand or diesel fuel, different things like that. Extra propane. A lot of people like to grill with gas grills. I like the charcoal grill as well, but you're not going to keep bags and bags of charcoal around, but you could have a couple of extra propane tanks around. And when the power goes out for, like, let's say we're under attack, China or someone has zapped the grid and we're out of power for 2 or 3 weeks. Well, if you have a couple of propane tanks sitting in the garage, you can feed your family by grilling on the grill.
Right. No, this is all very good to think about. I have to place an order soon and get all these things. I need extra things for my car. I always like to have water bottles and things like that on hand. So, Scott Bryson, thank you so much for being here for Tactical Detail. I love this segment. I feel smarter and more well-equipped to take on everything that comes our way these days. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely love having Scott Bryson on, and he is, of course, Silverlock contributor. He's a former Secret Service agent, and he's the host of Beyond the Service podcast. So if you're looking for Scott and more information, he puts out great videos on social media. Like, basically this segment, he puts out videos like that, even in shorter form, all the time on all of these hot topics in the news. So he's Scott Bryson BTS on social. You guys can find him. I want to cover just a few sports stories. I know Andy likes this when I get into the sports world before getting into scrolling time. So Gary Cohen, he was calling the Mets and Cubs game last night. Listen to this, Major L. He said it was weird that Matt Shaw on the Cubs went to his friend Charlie Kirk's memorial service during the season. Watch this. You could
later revealed that he had been given permission to attend Charlie Kirk's funeral. And I don't want to talk about any of the politics of it, but the thought of leaving your team in the middle of a race for any reason other than a family emergency really strikes me as weird.
All right, so I don't understand why you would say it strikes you as weird. Matt Shaw, he has since come out and said that Erica Kirk herself texted him making sure to attend the event. So this just goes to show how close he really was to the Kirks. This wasn't just, and hey, if you wanted to go to Charlie Kirk's memorial and you didn't know him personally, that is fine too. Everyone felt like they knew him a little bit, right? From following him and watching his show and all of that. But Matt Shaw is actually friends with the Kirk family. He's actually friends with Charlie. They lived in the same apartment complex in Arizona, and they both connected about their faith. So there is nothing more tone deaf than this guy saying, and there's no need to comment about what you think of a player skipping a game for a funeral or for a friend, a close friend, because according to this guy, Gary, you shouldn't go to your friend's memorial service even when a grieving widow asks you to. You can only skip a game or a practice if it's a family emergency.
He didn't have to say any of that. Literally, shut up. Like, tried the corner and missed just a bit outside. That's all he has to say the whole game. Like, you don't have to go. That was an unforced error, and that if you think about it, that means that there was prior conversations about that amongst people in the Cubs organization, or that wouldn't be a talking point. You feel that way?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it is. It's a cold-hearted thing to say. And I was kind of thinking about it too. Like, would he have said that if it was someone on the Mets that went? Would he have said that?
Well,
if someone...
Probably not.
Right. And if someone had gone and it was, let's say, a left-wing figure that was assassinated, would he have been making the same comment? I don't think so.
I like the idea. I mean, you think everything seems political and everything seems, but to me, it's just like stupidity.
Like, he didn't even have to go there.
Shut up. And if I was in charge of the broadcasting network, or I was in charge of the Mets broadcast team, like, dude, so much other stuff to talk about, like the game. you don't have to get into that, because then you have to answer for it. So just be quiet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Also,
can you imagine he's like, yeah, John Doe wasn't a real friend of Martin Luther King, but it's kind of weird that he went to his funeral.
Right. I mean, it's just, come on. Yeah. So also another kind of tone deaf moment is people trying to make Kathy Hochul happen in New York, especially on Long Island for the Ryder Cup. So here's a compilation of New York Governor Kathy Hochul getting booed at the Ryder Cup. Watch this.
For New York, your friend and mine in attendance, Governor Kathy Hochul. Governor, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to your team, too, for getting us ready for the Ryder Cup in New York.
I would like to say a few thank yous to Governor of State New York, Kathy Hochul. As we prepare to tee it up on Friday, I want to thank the people who made this journey possible. To Governor Hochul, to the teams of New York, to the teams of the New York.
Okay, we're going to check here on the James Comey indictment. I'm seeing an ABC News article now. So just double check on that, and we'll get into that in just a second. But I also need to show you, so Kathy Hochul is getting booed at every turn. And in all of those clips, the boo is just getting louder and louder and louder. Every time they brought her up to, thank her for being here and all this stuff, it just kept getting louder and louder and louder. You would think that they would come to the conclusion that people on Long Island, they're conservative. Not all of them, but a lot of people on Long Island are conservative. This is where I'm from.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that where you're, yeah.
Yes. And, a lot of people don't like Kathy Hochul. I think people just vote that way because it's New York and it's blue. But a lot of places and people on Long Island are not blue. But here's the funniest part. I just need to play this video of her calling Long Islanders friendly. Watch this.
Long Island, we've got incredible beaches and small towns and farmers markets and the most friendly people you'll ever meet. So give it up for the governor, Kathy Hochul, everybody.
Just booing, and Long Islanders are so friendly.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Wait, just time out. I'm not saying Long Islanders are not friendly,
No,
but
they're not.
The spirit of this event, I don't know. I've never been to Long Island. I'm sure you got cousins up there that are friendly. This event is going to be, the Ryder Cup,
Mostly conservative.
is going to be brutal because it's at Bethpage Black, and what I'm trying to say is that this right here, even if it's the Kathy Hochul, not this is the nicest that these people are going to be all weekend. They are primed and ready to go for this Ryder Cup.
They have a few beers in them. They're excited. They're going to watch,
they don't
Team
need
USA.
beers to scream and yell. And it is going to be, the microphones this weekend are going to pick up some awful things on the broadcast.
Totally. So this is according to ABC News right now, but former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted on 2 of 3 counts sought by prosecutors, 1 count of making false statements and 1 count of obstruction of justice, just days after President Trump issued a public demand for his DOJ to act now. So interesting to note that James Comey indicted, right? What is happening now with Letitia James? She's probably freaking out. And Adam Schiff probably freaking out. Other people that are on the DOJ's radar are probably freaking out because if they can find stuff on James Comey, they can find things on the other people because, James Comey, under oath, all these people under oath are saying things that they shouldn't have been saying, especially when it comes to Russiagate. So.
Do you remember last week when we were covering Kash Patel on Capitol Hill giving his testimony and we played that back and forth with Adam Schiff? And I said, dude, you are tone deaf because you don't know what. I mean, pretty soon he's going to be on the other side of that room, facing them with his right hand in the air. Yeah. And so, you get them all. Let's get them all.
Yeah. And, I don't know much about Lindsay Halligan, the prosecutor in Virginia there, but she used to be a personal attorney for President Trump. So certainly she is close to the president and certainly has his best interests at heart. I think, according to what President Trump has been saying, she's a fighter and he was kind of pushing Pam Bondi, like, you know, poking her with a stick a little bit to do something, and said, like, this is my pick. Lindsey Halligan is my pick, so maybe Lindsey will be more of a bulldog and get this done. So,
well, it doesn't really. I mean, they have the evidence. We feel like they have the evidence, and to sort of convey to the American people that you have the evidence, but not act on that is not this precedent that the DOJ or President Trump. We don't want that. So, I mean, this is we thought it might happen. We're seeing it happen, and good for those guys.
Do we know the specific lie to Congress that, you know, I mean, I know that he was saying that, you know, Russiagate and all that stuff, but like what
the specific lie was a lie that happened, I believe, in 2017 when Andy McCabe leaked information from their overall Biden administration, but Comey was the source of that. And so when he well,
it would have been under Obama, because that was
Obama,
first
correct,
term,
correct, Obama, 2017. So he was asked about that on Capitol Hill. He was asked about that by a congressman in a follow-up hearing. He was asked about that by Ted Cruz and lied both times. So I believe in 2017 and 2020, they have evidence of perjury because Andy McCabe has sung like he's told on him. And so now they have, I believe they have documented proof, and then Andy McCabe's testimony. So it's like it doesn't look good for Comey.
Whew. Well, we will keep an eye on this. Obviously, more details probably will come out in between now and tomorrow's show. So stay tuned for that. And let's get into the scrolling time. All right, well, I saw this video. This was a clip from Piers Morgan's show where he has, it's awesome, the debates that they have. He's got a panel with a bunch of people, but this was a debate that he was having about trans issues, and he had conservative influencer who's also trans, Blair White, on the panel to kind of set things straight, and then had some trans and also non-binary person on the panel, which doesn't make sense. We're going to get into that after, but take a listen to this.
Me, you raised it, not me. I didn't even know. So now you've raised it. What does that actually mean? What do you mean you're non-binary?
Are you really just going to...
Can you explain it?
Are you going to cut Blair off now?
I'm just asking you to explain it. I'll come back to Blair in a moment.
Well, you were the one that cut me off, sis, but I will say that...
Hang on one second, Blair. Sorry, Blair, wait 1 second. I just want to ask, what do you mean by non-binary?
When I say I'm non-binary, I'm expressing my identity in a way that I have a right to do. I'm sorry?
What's your sexuality?
My sexuality. Yes. This doesn't have anything to do with my
sexuality.
Actually,
the UK government now says that people are male or female. The British Prime Minister says people are male or female.
I don't think the UK government should have the final say on how I express myself.
Well, they determine the laws of the country.
Treated.
I'm just curious what you mean by non-binary. What does that mean?
I'm curious. Firstly...
What are your pronouns?
They, them.
What does that mean? There's only one of you.
What does they, them... actually, they, them has been... The collective they has been used to refer to individual people for centuries and still is. So, I mean, if you don't understand basic grammar, that's on you.
I don't really understand. I don't understand. I've got to be honest with you. I don't understand the concept of what non-binary means or why you would use a plural pronoun to describe a singular person. That makes sense. To me, this is the problem with the whole woke thing, is that it's inexplicable. Nobody really knows what it means.
First of all, the they, them telling Piers Morgan that he doesn't understand basic grammar because he can't wrap his brain around how they, them can refer to a singular person is laughable. That is not grammatically correct. And no, people don't say that. People say that now, but it's not grammatically correct.
No, and in context, this clip was a tad bit longer, and so we had to scrub it so we could talk about it. But like, she brought up to virtue signal. No one asked.
She said, like, I'm trans,
She brought
by the
up,
way.
I'm binary.
Well, she said, I'm trans myself. And then she said, I'm non-binary. You can't be both.
And Pierce, it's like, okay, if you want a virtue signal, I'm going to press the gas down.
Explain.
And it's so, like, He can cross me as sideways sometimes, but like I love this when he gets something and he won't let it go. It's like, just shut up.
So funny how every time, if it's in a setting like this or those man on the street interviews, people will go out and ask people at a pride parade or whatever, like, oh, you're non-binary. Like, what is that? What do you mean by that? And then they short circuit every single time. Like, they cannot come up with an answer because it's all circular. What is a woman? And they say, well, a woman is what you think a woman is. That does not define woman. That does not define man. That does not define non-binary. Non-binary can't just be like, well, whatever you think it means. That's not a definition.
And she proved that it wasn't a definition because she's digging a hole for herself live on television.
Oh my gosh. It's just totally stupid. Anyway, also totally stupid. I thought that these videos were hilarious. These next two kind of go hand in hand. But these next videos I saw because people were making fun of liberals for, downing their Tylenol just because, Trump said it was bad. So, of course, it's good for liberals. If Trump says it, then, it has to be false, right? So this is a first example of liberals being told not to drink piss by President Trump, and here they are drinking piss. Trump, studies have shown that you shouldn't drink piss, liberals, and he's drinking probably a apple juice or something, but looks like pee, which is very funny. And then also this one cracked me up. This is actually the first one that I saw. President Trump said not to eat poop. Liberals, they eat poop. Just a little suspense. Trump, studies show you shouldn't eat your poop, and her mouth is like covered in chocolate or something.
That is disgusting.
Well, if you look at it and you think that it is pee and poop, it is disgusting. But if you look at it and you think this is apple juice and chocolate, then it's less disgusting, and then it's just funny.
Our friend Sean Farish did a funny little bit on this where he does his Trump thing and he endorsed air because he loves breathing.
Wait, can you pull it up?
And he doesn't think. I wonder if we can get the audio running through NDI. I'm not sure, but like it really is funny.
That is funny. All right, well, we won't wait on it. It's okay. Maybe we'll play it tomorrow if we can prep for it and find it. But anyway, thank you for joining me tonight on this episode of Nightly Scroll. I had a ton of fun, and I hope to see you right back here tomorrow. We are going to do more information on the James Comey indictment. Wow, what does this mean? Okay, so X and Facebook, if you are here on X or Facebook, hello, welcome to Nightly Scroll. I'm Hayley Caronia. If you want to watch the full show, because it's going to cut off at some point, you got to do it on Rumble. So rumble.com/Hayley is where you can watch Nightly Scroll in full, and you can watch it every weeknight, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So I hope you do. So if anyone new is watching tonight, welcome.